The way we typically are involved with lead is through testing. It's actually kind of combined with our immunization program. Kids come in to see us for immunizations, and then based on their age determines whether or not they receive a lead test. We usually test all of our 1-year-old kids for lead, and then we test them again at age 2. When we test, we send those tests off to the state lab for processing, and then depending on the results, we go from there. If the results are within normal range, we'll simply notify the parent, that the tests were normal. We do lead education at that testing visit, so if they have any follow-up questions to that visit, we'll answer those when we notify the parent. If the test result is elevated, we'll notify the parent either by a phone call or sending out a letter saying, your child's initial test, which is a capillary blood draw, was elevated. We need to do a venous draw to confirm that capillary sample wasn't contaminated in some way. So we'll bring the child back in, do a venous blood draw, and then if that blood draw is still elevated, we'll contact the parents and explain to them that the child's at risk for lead poisoning. We'd like to come out and talk to them about it, look through the home, see if we can determine where the lead poisoning may be coming from. Or is there chipping paint in the home? What is their water supply like? Things of that nature, and then we'll proceed from there. We'll continue testing the child usually about every 3 months to see if that lead level is coming. Most of it includes removing whatever the source of lead is, and pretty much what we see is usually a situation where it's an older home, a home that's built before 1978, before lead paint was outlawed, and that paint begins to chip away in the house maybe, and that's not only the interior, the exterior of the house as well. And if it chips away at the exterior, it ends up in the soil, and of course little kids play outside and little kids put things in their mouth, and so that's what we see most generally, is that's the source of the contamination. So we try to eliminate that, and there are certain ways that you go about getting rid of that type of a contaminant. You can't just go and chip all the paint off and repaint. There's specific ways that needs to be dealt with, but we refer that to an environmental inspector that comes out and does a more thorough investigation for lead, and then he gives the family information on abatement of that lead, how it needs to be taken care of, how it needs to be remedied, and then what can be done to keep it from happening in the future. So.
Okay, the lead and copper sampling rule is a federal rule. It started in '91. Originally, Jacksonville had 60 residential homes that they had to find that actually had copper pipes inside with lead soldered, and possibly lead service lines outside. And once they sampled 60 and they could prove to the federal EPA that we didn't have a problem with lead and or corrosion, we got to go down to 30 residential homes, and that's where we've been ever since. This year we're getting ready to do it again, and we'll get 30 residential homes out of the original 60 to agree to it. They give us a water sample and we send it to the laboratory in Peoria, and we get the test results back in about a month, and then we send everybody an original test result from the lab and a letter stating they did not have any problem with lead, or if they did have a trace of it, we would send them a letter stating this is what you can or cannot do to eliminate the lead in your water. But we historically have not had any problem with lead because we treat our water accordingly to keep the lead from leaching, if there is any lead, into the water. Okay, I got a piece of tape on this because this is a lead line. This is brass on this end, and then this is a wipe joint where the lead is joined to the brass, and then this is a service that a plumber took out of the front yard of a home, and I got this as a sample, but you can see inside there's a cream colored coating that is calcium carbonate, and we finish our water to where the pH and alkalinity is correct to lay down a coat of that to protect the water mains and the services outside in your front yard to your house or inside your home. And so this calcium carbonate coating keeps the lead from leaching into the water if there is lead in your home. This is just a general practice that we do. It doesn't take a whole lot to do at the plant. You just need to adjust it before you send it out to where we don't. And that's what the EPA is looking for whenever we do the sampling is if your water's corrosive, it would have a high level of lead, but we don't. So we're okay. Well, typically, the way we understand it down here is they change their source water, which we call raw water, and then when they pumped it out into the systems, the alkalinity and the pH were different. And the mains and the services had all got used to a certain pH and alkalinity, laying down that coating. But if you have your pH and alkalinity different, it'll start stripping that coating off. And then you're left with bare lead and bare cast iron pipes and everything. And then that's when it's still corrosive, that's when you start getting water with lead in it, or brown or black because it's corrosive.
And that's what happened in Flint.
That's according to what we know down here, based on everything. That's what happened up there. Yeah.